YouTube, it's me again. Time for an update. As some of you that have read some of my comments in the videos of other people and comments to some of my own videos, I have been toying around with the idea of writing a book about the furry fandom. And I've decided that yes, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I found a website where I can sell the book, and it's a place called lulu.com. That's where I'll be peddling this book, and it's basically going to be a gonzo journalism type piece. It's one of those stream of consciousness kind of things. The working title that I have for it is Furries, Fallacies, and Fail, an Internet Troll's Look at the Furry Fandom. And, excuse me. Sorry, just had to take a drink of hot tea there. Anyway, it's, as I said, it's going to be a gonzo journalism piece, and it's not going to be it's not going to be like 126 pages of yiffin' hell or anything like that. I'm not going to take the position that every furry is this awful person. I'm not going to go, I don't like false dichotomies like that, everybody's wrong on the other side. I don't do that kind of thing. But on the other hand, it is titled Fallacies and Fail for a very good reason. From my experience with the furries, especially the furries of YouTube, the fandom has not put its best foot forward, in my opinion, especially in my dealings with them. I've actually had furries tell me that I needed to die because of things I've said over the internet. But there's going to be more to it than that. And I'm going to have a little preview of something that's going to be in my book. Sort of a dire prediction for the fandom. Anyway, first let me bring up professional clowns, specifically clowns that entertain at children's birthday parties and in circuses. And I'll get to why I'm bringing up circus clowns in a minute. But in order to be a professional clown, a real clown, you have to go to a clown college. It's an art form. They have to study for it, believe it or not. You can't just put on some grease paint and say, hey, I'm a clown. It doesn't work like that. And they teach you sort of a clown code of ethics. And it relates to what you can do when you're in clown getup and what you can't do. What you can't do when you're in clown getup is such things as take a drink of alcohol. You can't smoke a cigarette, or any kind of tobacco for that matter. You can't use foul language. You can't engage in lewd behavior or any of that. And it's even worse if you're in clown makeup and you do any of those things in front of a child. You do that and other clowns hear about that, you pretty much become a pariah within their community. So they have this really rigid code of behavior. And for a long time, and since it's an art form and not a fandom like the furry fandom is, they were able to keep out a lot of bad people. And as a result, they kept their reputation completely spotless for a very long time. But then one day, an individual by the name of John Wayne Gacy came along. He was a serial killer, and he did part-time work as a professional clown. He went by the name of Pogo, the clown. And after the authorities found out what he was up to, a new archetype sprang up, the sort of dark, taboo kind of clown. You see them in movies that, prey on coulrophobes, which is people with a fear of clowns. Like Insane Clown Posse, they use that kind of archetype. That one guy from Slipknot, he uses it. And it's not just murderers, but there's also something called clown porn. So, even with this rigidly controlled art form and this very strict code of behavior, they still had their image tarnished. Now, how does this relate to the furry fandom? Well, the furry fandom is very loose-leafed. The Black Hand, too, from what he's said to me, has convinced me that I'm convinced it's going to be like that for a long time. You know, I mean, the furries already have a reputation as pervs. Now, what do you think is going to happen to the fandom if a serial killer should come into the fandom? You know, what happens if some guy who is going around killing people, possibly doing other things to them first, gets arrested, and they go on this guy's hard drive and they find, YIF art from Fur Affinity, pictures from that one guy, what's his name, Zen, the guy that draws, I'd rather not say. What do you think that's going to do to the fandom now? I mean, right now, shows in the major media, the old media, like CSI and Jimmy Kimmel, have basically taken potshots at the furry fandom. And what do you think is going to happen if some serial killer, like I say, tarnishes your image even further? And see, here's what I think this will happen, because the fandom is so loose-leafed and lets anybody in. It will happen. Some serial killer will enter your fandom, maybe more than one. And I'm predicting it will happen within 10 to 15 years. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I'm betting that it will. And it's just something that furries really need to think about. They need to stop viewing their fandom through rose-colored glasses, and they need to start getting a little bit more serious about this. And anyway, as I've said, that's a little preview of something that will be in my book. This bad prediction of what could happen to you guys. It happened to the clowns, and they're more rigidly controlled. You guys have already had some real freaks like Dal Husky and Tumbles the Stair Dragon. You've had some real miscreants. So, anyway, I'm writing this book, whether you're a furry or a troll or just anybody that has any information that you think I vitally need to know before I go and get much further into writing this book. Please leave a comment or a video response. I'd like to hear as much as I can about it. And that's what I've got going on. I'll let you know how things are progressing. Have a good night, YouTube.